Everybody, so welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time coming across this channel, my name is Solomon. I'm a synth pop artist and music producer and also typology enthusiast. I've created my own type grid system, or it's more like a diagnostic tool. It's a type grid which I call the self-discovery grid. It helps you identify a person's type through interacting with them and mainly identifying their values. All right, so this is part of a video series where we talk about the quadras, and the quadras are all about what a person values. And instead of describing the quadras like by coming up with a description of them and using adjectives, I've instead decided to use the Renin dichotomies, the three main Renin dichotomies used or the three only ones to identify quadras. There are actually a total of 15 Renin dichotomies, but I don't touch any of the others, just the three used to identify quadras. And if this is your first time coming across this channel, this is a channel dedicated towards the practical application and use of socionics. All right, how we can take a socionic which is highly theoretical in nature, and how we can take it and actually apply it to get real life results and to be able to practically identify your type and somebody else's type as well. So yeah, in today's video, it's going to be about the what's originally called the decisive types, decisive versus judicious. Decisive are the types that value SE and I, whereas judicious are the types that value NESI. Now, I've decided to rename the dichotomy, and instead of calling the decisive types decisive, I've called them the intensifiers. And instead of calling the judicious types judicious, I've decided to call them the harmonizers. All right, and I'll get to why. So I think the name decisive is actually kind of misleading, because NISE are not decision-making functions. Judicious, being a person who's judicious, it implies decision-making. And I decided just to change the name because it's actually misleading, all right? So yeah. So I've decided to call the intensifiers, you'll know why, all right? So yeah, let's just jump right down to it. First difference, their approach to mobilization. The intensifiers tend to mobilize before it's necessary and stay intense after accomplishing a task. The harmonizers find it hard to get to a mobilized state, and by mobilized I mean just that having that go, let's get this shit done, that sort of energy, that mentality. The harmonizers have a hard time getting into it, and a much easier time getting into a relaxed, sort of chilled state, right? Like they have like this Winnie the Pooh kind of energy, if that makes any sense. So the intensifiers, right? Like I said, you could say that they're more like action oriented as opposed to just trying to take a chill. Now let's get to the second difference, which is their rest and their relaxation. The intensifiers believe the more effective the mobilization, the more fulfilling the rest will be. All right, and they require like an external source to help them relax, like a stress ball, a movie, a TV show, right? These are the types who will say, well, I can't really rest well in the evening unless I work hard and long hours during the day. I know for a fact I'm definitely like this because I'm also an intensifier, which is NISE. Now the judicious types, oh, my bad, I need to like remember the new names that I gave them. All right, now the harmonizing types, they instead require rest before working. All right, especially for difficult tasks, and place a higher value on the preparatory stage, right, which is just the whole preparing to work and making sure that they've rested and relaxed well. So a practical tip to actually identifying your type or somebody else's is, do they prefer, or do they have, like, is it easier for them to rest after like some sort of intense workout or intense day at the office or intense study period or whatever, where the harmonizers, they actually perform better if they rest and relax, and they don't really need help in knowing how to just kick it back, right? So yeah, task management. The intensifiers are not inclined to divide upcoming large tasks into separate stages. So their working style is more like a campaign style. So, right, they'd rather just, if they got a assignment, project, homework, or some project at work or a personal project they're working on, they would rather just sort of like work on it all, the whole thing, all at once, just really jump into it. whereas the harmonizers instead prefer taking things bit by bit, like one bite at a time instead of trying to swallow the whole thing. All right, if that makes any sense. They also consider the preparatory stage more valuable, so that's like the stage of planning and preparing for the work, whereas the intensifiers instead talk about the work that they've done and the things that they've done. Like, and this even applies to the SE suggestives out there. So I'm SE suggestive, and even I, like when I talk about work, I don't really talk much about how much time I put into preparation and planning. I do that stuff, but for me, it's like the highlight of the working period is more so the things that I've done during the time, as opposed to the time I spent planning. All right. So that's one way of distinguishing the differences between them, the task management. So practical advice: if you're the type of person who would rather finish an assignment, like you're at uni or something, you got an assignment or a project, whatever you're working on. If you're the type of person that likes to have things accomplished bit by bit along the way, you're most likely going to be a harmonizing type as opposed to an intensifier. Again, most likely, this isn't a hard rule. So yeah. And now if you're the type of person that likes to just do the whole thing, the whole project, whether it be in the beginning, middle, or end, or like toward near the deadline, it doesn't really matter. But what matters is that when you start working on it, it's like a session where you have to finish it all at once, basically. So let's get to the last difference between these two: work evaluation and priorities. Now, the intensifiers, when you ask them about work, right, when they talk about what they do, they like to talk about, they evaluate their work by looking at the returns they get for the efforts that they've invested, including monetary rewards. Now, monetary rewards is just one of them, but it could be, I was able to earn this much more, or I was able to learn this much more, or I was able to get more contacts and network over here, right? Whereas the harmonizing types are more concerned with the environment condition, like prioritizing their convenience, breaks, proximity to like where they live, so that they like how long they have to commute. Now, so for example, a practical way of actually identifying the difference, right? They can both talk about the same thing. Like an intensifier can talk about, this job over here, I don't even have to drive that far, or it's the taxi is really how much I have to pay for the taxi is really low. But the harmonizer type won't talk about it like that. They won't be like, I don't have to pay as much, I get to save money because the distance is really short. No, they're gonna say, well, the distance is really short and that helps me stay more relaxed, and I don't like being in the car for too long and stuff like that, right? They can talk about the same event, but talk about it from a completely different point of view, which is really what's fascinating about this whole field, right? They'll talk about the same thing. They'll talk about like the same event, but in different ways, right? There, or they experience the same thing, but how they interpret it is completely different, right? Which is really interesting when you think about it, actually. All right, like whatever frequency of reality that they're tuning into is completely different, even though the two people, right, went through the exact same thing. So yeah, the harmonizers are more concerned with their comfort, convenience, like I said, where the intensifiers are more concerned for the fruits of their labor. All right, they really care more about what they're going to get out of the work that they're doing. So now let's go a level deeper. Let's actually talk about why they are the way they are. So the intensifiers have NI and SE. NI is all about development over time, right? It's aware of where events are leading, overarching themes, narratives, you could say, but it's more sort of like, okay, here's a superordinate theme. Here is what the I don't want to say general pattern, but where all the different concrete SE activities, experiences, events are leading towards. All right, what is the end outcome of all the concrete things that are happening on the ground, so to say. Whereas SE is all about space, more like force. It's more about influence, how much, I don't want to say, it's not necessarily energy, but it's more like, nor is it necessarily aggression, but it's more like the collection and gathering of more experiences. I want more stuff like this. I want more experiences. I want to get that thing over there. I want to climb over that mountain over there. Now, whether it be to prove somebody's strength of will, or whether it be to prove, or whether it be just to gather new experiences, quite frankly, like, oh, they just do it for the thrill of it, just for fun, that sort of mentality. Whereas, so the way the NISC axis works is basically what are all, like a scatter graph, like what are all the data points, SE, concrete data points, and then NI tries to see, okay, where are things headed? What's the best path to move forward, right? I would say personally, this is just my opinion, right? I actually think that the NISC types by nature are very forward moving types, especially the types with NI in the top two, I would personally say, right? So if you want a practical advice on how to identify if you are an NISE type as opposed to NESI type, one thing that NISE types are all about is the intensifiers are all about, okay, how can I move forward? How can I push the ball forward? All right. I see the things that are happening in the concrete world. Now, again, depending on the order, right? So if you've got SCU up top, NI below, you're more concerned with accumulating more experiences. If you've got NI on top, SE below, you're more concerned with the themes and the direction where things are headed, but you're not necessarily always accumulating that many new experiences. So it's really all about moving forward, long range thinking, especially if you're NI first or second. The NIs, like the lower NI types, not really. They don't really think in terms of strategy, but they think more in terms of impact as opposed to strategy, or tactics as opposed to strategy, right? Now, all NISE types are going to seek impact, even the SE suggestive types. Well, the SE suggestive are just going to have a hard time getting into that state of mind that results in powerful impact, but they all value it. They all talk about it, they're all seeking it in some way. And whereas the NESI is different. NESI is actually completely different. It's more so gathering in new concepts, seeing the potential in things, in the events, in the concrete. Like, okay, I see the thing that's in front of me, but I'm not really looking at the thing. Instead, I'm looking at what that thing could be, right? What are all the different combinations and permutations that the object, that the thing, that can come out of this thing that I'm looking at? That's NE. Whereas NISC or SE is more like, okay, this is the thing, that's all there is to it. And when NI comes into play, it's more so, okay, which direction, what will happen, basically, right? What is most likely going to be the end outcome here? What's most likely going to occur? NE types don't really look at what's most likely going to happen. They just look at all the different things that can happen, all right? So then now when we talk about SI, it's all about refining sensory experience. So instead of gathering in new, like, okay, here's this experience, let me go try this food over there, let me go hang out with those people, see what they're up to, or let me go climb over this mountain, see what's on the summit of that mountain, right? It's more like, instead of trying to gather more experiences, let me instead make sure that the experiences that I'm gathering in, I'm doing it in a more composed, relaxed, sort of filtered way, right? I'm making sure that the concrete environment around me is affecting me, or keeping track of how the concrete environment is affecting me. That's the way that SI types really go about it. So yeah, the NESI types really value their comfort, convenience. They value looking at the potential of different endeavors, or potential of different things, potential of people, and the many different possibilities that can come out of it. And they value just their comfort, convenience, where the NISC types value strategy, long-term thinking, and they value impact and tactics, and really leaving a mark on the world. All right. So yeah, that does it about this for this video. I hope you guys enjoy it. Anyways, guys, peace out.